Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you're joining us from today. I'm Eric Lanask, I'm from TMC, and it's my pleasure to host today's webinar for you. Hopefully you're all seeing our title slide on your screens. Today's session is called Alerting for Success, Enhancing Operations with Real-Time Insights. That's what really today's modern business environment is all about, right? Getting real-time insights, using real-time data to enhance your business operations. I mean, this is no surprise. We all know that we're using more applications, more services, more devices, more networks and connections than ever to do our work. And certainly over the past couple of years, all of those things have become so much more exponentially more important than they ever have been. And yeah, it's fantastic to have all of these tools and this access and all these resources available to us. Especially today when many of us are working from, well, I guess anywhere you could say. Um, it's great, that is, until something goes wrong. And then suddenly we're not able to perform our jobs, whether we're in the office, whether we're somewhere remote. All of these different interconnected pieces of our business technology infrastructure, there's no doubt it can create an IT headache at best, and certainly nightmares at times. And it's all because of that complexity that's so much greater than it was even, say, 5 years ago. Certainly, that's no excuse. Modern organizations, we all rely on those dozens, those hundreds, and even thousands in some cases of networked applications and resources to succeed. So the question that you've got to be asking yourself is, how do I maintain visibility into all of these critical services and the infrastructures that supports and delivers them? You need to know not only everything that's attached to your networks, but what their impact is on your business operations. What are the most critical pieces of that infrastructure for you? What's a relationship between those various components? How do they impact each other? How do they impact your business's ability to maintain operational stability? It's not an easy task by any stretch, especially today. And there's a lot that goes into it all, into the risk management to ensure your operational continuity, from performance monitoring and issue identification and prioritization, capacity planning, resource allocation, reporting and communication. IT teams, they've got their hands full for sure. But what we're here to impress upon you today is that it doesn't have to be an impossible task. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Keith Sinclair, who's Chief Architect and MNIS founder at First Wave. Keith, in just a moment, is going to get us going and is going to offer you some amazing insights into what might be a fresh take on how businesses can better manage their IT environments and understand what's happening and protect themselves from any sort of operational failures, starting with a concept called business impact visibility. But before I hand over today's session to Keith, just a couple of very quick program notes. We do have some time at the end for your Q&A. I encourage you all to submit any questions you have, and feel free to submit those during Keith's presentation. We'll get to them at the end. I know some of you will be wondering, if you're interested in today's presentation deck, our last slide will include contact information and email address if you'd like to contact First Wave to get that slide deck. Also, you can contact them for any follow-up questions, and tomorrow you'll be receiving a follow-up email if you're interested in sharing the on-demand version of today's webinar with any of your colleagues who may not have been able to join us live today. So with that, again, welcome, thanks for being here, and it is my great pleasure to introduce Keith Sinclair from First Wave. Keith, it's all yours.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for the introduction. And I'll just give a really brief introduction of myself. So I've been involved in the industry for a really long time. And given that I must have started work at 10 years old to have had this much experience so far. And I'm been involved in open source for basically most of my career, and been building big networks for people, and then wrote NMIS to help people a long time ago with managing networks back in the late 90s. And that's where First Wave has got its monitoring platform from, is from the NMIS software that I started a long time ago and had a huge community behind it over the last couple of decades. While I'm not doing this kind of thing, I'm usually doing something with the Lego collection in the house, or out in the bush, an Australian bush. Obviously, from my funny accent, I'm down here in Australia, and we go out in the bush and do some work with IoT on a beautiful place called Fraser Island.
So I think, Keith, we're up to our first poll question, right?
That's right.
Great. So for our audience, we would love to hear from you. How would you rate the effectiveness of your current network management software in identifying and resolving critical issues that impact your business operations, your revenue, and your customer satisfaction? It's highly effective. You have no issues. It identifies 100% of all devices on the network and resolves these issues. It's effective. Maybe that identifies 50 to 70% of all devices and issues related to them. It's mildly effective. It identifies less than 50% of all devices. Or D, you don't have a solution. So Keith, why we let our audience take a moment to respond to that. You know, these kinds of poll questions where folks are assessing their current technology is always interesting. What have you seen as far as whether folks are looking realistically at their current solutions?
We get a lot of customers who approach us because they don't have a solution. And sometimes that means they had a solution, but something happened and, you know, the server crashed or something went wrong and they've never replaced it or something. So frequently it's they don't have a solution or it's mildly effective and they've had some kind of large outage or large issue, and that has resulted in their mildly effective system not actually being of any use and them requiring to replace it with a new system.
And I imagine most of the folks that come to you aren't coming to you because they have a highly effective, 100% effective solution.
That's right. That's right. They're typically they're doing something because they've had something in place for a long time. There's we call it a compelling event, like they've actually had some kind of outage. They think their system's working. They think their system's highly effective. Then they have some kind of outage in their technology. It might be a network outage. It might be something to do with the servers, but something happens that they've never experienced before, and the system doesn't handle it. Doesn't tell them what went wrong. So they you know, the highly effective system they thought they had is effectively mildly effective at best.
Got it. Let's take a look at what our audience is telling us. I don't think you'll be surprised. Nobody thinks they have a highly effective solution out there, and I suppose it makes sense. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, but you do have more than half of our attendees who don't have a solution currently.
That's really interesting, actually. I thought there'd be more people in mildly effective. Very interesting.
I will
Excellent.
hand it back over to you, Keith.
Thanks very much. So let's have a quick look at the agenda for today. So we're going to go through the importance of business impact visibility. You know, we're sort of just calling that BIV or BIV, if you like. And it also includes notification, and notification is a critical part of it. So what are the key elements of BIV? What are the benefits of implementing BIV? We're going to how do we get started with BIV? And then getting BIV with enterprise services, which will actually show you how you can actually literally create business impact visibility with a click of a mouse. And then we'll conclude and hand over to questions. So the importance of, you know, you're here to learn about why business impact visibility is so important. With the growing complexity and interconnectedness of business operations, it has become increasingly challenging for businesses to identify and respond quickly to critical issues that can impact their operations, revenue, and customer satisfaction. We see this very frequently with our customer base, and they were asking us to do something to provide better visibility than we were already providing them. So today, there's so many technologies used by businesses. You know, I won't read the list, and there's more than I could fit on this slide. But all of these technologies are coming at us thick and fast. We in the IT, you know, we as IT professionals are expected to bring these into our environment, get them working, deliver them to make sure that they're being delivered to the people who need them, and we've got to keep them running and keep them operating. And all of these things are dependent on IT infrastructure, especially networks. We're dependent on internet connections more than we ever were before. And all of these technologies are interconnected. They're just working with each other, communicating with each other all the time, using API calls. All sorts of things are going on, you know, with this raft of technologies that are in place today. So as our modern businesses grow and evolve, there's these applications, there's more of them being deployed, there's more technologies being added to the solutions, and you're creating more data. So there's more data being created by your own organization. You're doing more integrations between your own systems to talk to your own, to get data from other systems. And then you're also talking to external systems, and you're capturing more data, generating more data, and hopefully generating information and knowledge about your business. So that all of those APIs are in the background, talking to each other, communicating with other systems, and it's just creating more complexity than we've ever had before. And the slightly scary part is sometimes you don't know what the business people are doing. As we talk about shadow IT, all of a sudden you find a business process that's heavily dependent on some obscure application on the internet. So you need to know if your applications are up, your staff are being productive, and that your customers are satisfied. This is a really critical thing when you're operating a business. You need to know that what is going on. You need to understand what's happening, and you need to get the visibility, and you need to verify that it's working the way you think it's working. And then when something goes wrong, you need the right people to be notified. So the key elements of BIV are real-time monitoring. So the ability to collect data from all of the elements that are involved in your infrastructure, as well as the applications, and do that as quickly and as frequently as we possibly can, in essence, in real time. Then we need to be proactive alerting. So we need to be able to not only, and we'll talk a bit more about reactive and proactive in a minute, but we want to be able to proactively alert. So where we see something that might be causing an outage in the future, for example, a disk filling, an interface on a WAN link getting congested, these sort of proactive alerting to let you know of the situation that's happening, to give you situational awareness. And we want to provide actionable insights so that you understand the context for what is happening, and you've got some ability to then respond to that and take action to do something. It might be an action to start troubleshooting. It might be an action to resolve the issue, for example, to reconfigure a QoS class on a WAN router to remove that congestion. So what are the benefits of BIV? There's probably a lot more than this, but the reality is once you have better business impact visibility, you're able to make better decisions about the business. So you improve your business agility because you have more information about the way your business is operating. You're able to answer questions depending on the size of the organization. When the CEO or the managing director is asking questions about what is happening, you can answer those questions, and it increases the confidence in the IT infrastructure and the ability for the business to be able to respond to your customer needs. You increase your operational efficiency by increasing productivity. So, by using these tools, and our systems include automation and so forth as well. So you've got better visibility, and you've also got automations to help increase productivity. You're reducing the amount of time that you're spending troubleshooting problems. You're saving time. So you're really creating a lot of efficiencies there. And overall, the goal that we always have with our systems is to reduce your mean time to resolve. And the direct result of reducing your mean time to resolve is increased customer satisfaction. When your customers are happier, it makes for a happier business, right? So, and depending if you may be a government agency or a hospital, your customers may be patients, but you're always trying to do whatever you can to reduce that mean time to resolve so that everything is working the way it needs to be. So how do we get started with BIV? There's two aspects, or two pillars, if you like, to getting started with BIV. First of all, you need some business steps. You need to be able to talk to the stakeholders in the business and communicate with them and understand, ask them a few questions about what's going on. And with their help, you need to identify the top business processes. Some of you may already know this and be able to list them, no problem, but you're looking for things that are revenue generating, legal or legislative need. So you may have you might be government department delivering the mail, and you might have to do something, and that's your mission, so to speak. And then you've also got your core mission. So one of our customers, NASA, obviously their mission is obvious to get people to Mars. and that core mission is really, really critical. So you need to identify those top business processes. In my experience, people will tell you they have hundreds and hundreds of applications that are critical. In the end, there's usually about 10 to 20 that are actually revenue generating, some legal need, or a core mission, right? Usually it's a much smaller subset, and all of the other applications are very important, but they're not the top business processes. So now the applications are going to be used by those business processes. You're identifying them along the way. You've now got a list of those applications that you need to monitor, and you've now looking for the core productivity applications as well, things like email, internet collaboration tools that are the things that the team are using day to day, minute to minute to get their job done. You need to monitor those as well. So now you've got a good understanding of what the business processes are and the applications that are supporting those processes. Now you can go through the technical steps to discover all of the infrastructure if you don't already have it. And usually when you think you know your infrastructure, you should still run discovery so that you can discover the things that you didn't know about. And the variations in equipment that have been missed is quite large. So discovery is a really critical capability. And then you need to manage that equipment. So you need to be able to talk and communicate with the equipment. You should always be able to ping something at a minimum and know that it's up or down. And then you could obviously get credentials and do more complete management by collecting performance details and so forth. Now you want to get your monitoring going, and in our solution, managing and monitoring is sort of one step. But now you're managing the device, it'll start being monitored. Now, if you leave the system running for more than a few hours, you'll start to have a baseline of the performance, and you'll understand, and you'll probably be getting alerts already from our system. But you can establish a baseline, and now you adjust the alerting, to suit you. So there's alerts that we generate that may not be relevant to you. You can just disable them. You click in the GUI and turn off some alerts. Now you've got your alerting at a good level. You understand the general performance of the environment. So you've got that sort of baseline, and we've got some great reporting and so forth that help with that. Then you go on to setting up the services. So you want to then we call them monitored services. So you would then monitor your applications using monitored services. So you set up your services and start monitoring the applications, and then you're looking at then setting up notifications. And we're going to talk almost immediately about how the best way to do notifications. But then you set up your notifications. This is how you get started with BIV. In general, this is the process that you're going to use and that you're going to need to follow to get management of your environment. So the core concepts that are really, really important to talk about before we go back to talking more about business impact visibility. What is the difference between shared versus dedicated infrastructure? How do we reduce that complexity to something that we can more easily explain, understand, and work with? And then what is the difference between reactive, proactive, and business impacting? So when something goes on and there isn't some sort of event that happens, some sort of issue that happens, is it reactive, proactive, and business impacting? So we're going to talk about these now. So let's go through shared versus dedicated infrastructure. So in essence, you have a network, and almost all network equipment is shared equipment. You have routers and switches that are in your data center, that are in your WAN, they're in your SDN WAN. You've got all of this network equipment that many people are connecting to and using to get access to things. So that would be shared infrastructure. You're going to have your data center network where some switches might be dedicated to a couple of servers, but generally speaking, the switches in your data center or your computer room are being used by many, many different servers and many, many different applications. So you have this core of shared infrastructure, and then around that, you have all the dedicated infrastructure connecting to it. So when you have an outage in shared infrastructure, it's going to impact every single one of those. So your shared infrastructure is really, really important. It's the most important services that you need to monitor. And then you have your dedicated infrastructure, which, if something goes wrong with that server, it's only going to impact the people using that application, not the entire of the organization. So you need to consider that your shared infrastructure is a service that you're offering. So you're offering a network service, you're offering a data center network, and lots of people are using that. And you want to be able to detect when something goes wrong with that shared service, and then let all of the people know what's going on, while you're working as fast as you can to restore services. So what is an enterprise application? And I've drawn a little bit of a mud map here for what an application is, but in simple term, you have a user using a workstation or a laptop or a phone. So they're using, and then that device in their hand or on their desktop is going across the network, could be using VPN, could be using the internet, could be across your WAN backbone, could be any number of things, but the workstation or the mobile device is coming into your front end, and that application is going to have some sort of logical front end. It may be a classic 3-tier application, could be something doing microservices with containers and databases. At the end of the day, the application will have a front end, and it will have some sort of application logic and some kind of database or data store, right? So this is a typical application today, simplified terms of how it would look. And it's almost all the time, it depends on the organization. It's most likely for your most important business applications that these will be dedicated servers to service that application. They may also be on the cloud. So you may be using some sort of cloud service, and you may be logging in across the internet to some sort of cloud service, and these are dedicated to making sure that your application is working. So how do we expand on that enterprise application? So logically, there's a lot of network equipment. There's going to be local switches to where the user is. There's going to be a router. There's going to be some kind of WAN network, then another router at the office. There might be a firewall. There's going to be layer 2 and layer 3 connections. So that complexity is immediately gone from a simple red line to lots of layer 2 and layer 3 connections before we eventually get to the ability for the user to communicate with that front end. And of course, that could all be coming across VPN, or it could just be using communication directly. But the network infrastructure is shared by many users and applications, and we would put a box around all of that shared infrastructure. So all of those switches and routers will be used by many applications. They are used by many different things, and those applications will be having the traffic cross these different switches. And there's that couple of servers that are dedicated to this critical business application. Now, this problem is then compounded by having many dedicated infrastructure applications. You're going to have all of your applications. You may have some applications that run on the same servers, but typically speaking, you're going to have dedicated infrastructure for all of those critical business applications. And you'll have many of those bits of infrastructure repeated, and they're the dedicated pieces. So when the head of marketing is looking to understand where the application is going and what's going on with their marketing system, it's going to be running on a couple of servers that are using that shared infrastructure. So what about a network? So what about if we take a large network? And I've worked on networks of pretty much any size over my career. And you can have networks that are very small with just a couple of devices, or you have networks that are massive. And when you get to those larger networks, and even networks of just 100 devices will need some kind of structure. So you'll end up with a core network and some kind of distribution layer, and then an access layer. This is a classic, a model, and you'll see variations of this with different new emerging technologies and so forth. But at the end of the day, when you're building a resilient, fault-tolerant network, you'll need some sort of resilient core that is fault-tolerant, then some kind of high availability or highly resilient distribution layer, and then you'll have dedicated equipment that your customers or your branches or your offices or your head office or whatever is connecting to that, right? So you're going to have that core network that every single thing is being used every time. Traffic is always crossing the core. Then you've got lots of traffic always crossing your distribution layer. And then you've got that dedicated infrastructure for each customer or each office. So this is the same if you're a large enterprise or if you're a service provider. So service provider networks can probably have a lot more complexity than this, but you're going to have that bits of equipment that are dedicated to a customer, probably the CPE, customer premise equipment, that is only used by that customer. They may have many of them, but then you've got your shared MPLS or your shared SD-WAN equipment that you're using that lots and lots of people then connect to that distribution layer with. So the customer equipment is the least reliable. Typically speaking, it's the equipment that's in the core of the network, and the distribution layer are typically higher end equipment that has redundant power and so forth, whereas your CPE equipment, your on-premise equipment, will tend to be a smaller device because there's less people connected to it. but your network is the same as a larger application. So we've gone through shared versus dedicated infrastructure. Now we'll talk about reactive, proactive, and business impacting. So we want to differentiate reactive from proactive. It's a really, really important thing to do. And it's something that I think a lot of people get confused by. So, what is a reactive event? A reactive event is something that requires action now. I must do something right now to take care of it. So a node is down, a disk is full, an application is down. I now, as an operator, need to go and do something. I need to call someone. I need to fix something. I need to make something happen to restore that service. But we might have a proactive event, and our systems generate proactive events to give you understanding of what's going on in your environment and early warning of something going on. So for example, CPU is high, memory is high, interface is dropping packets, the disk is filling up. So it's not full, but it's got an early warning mark that the disk is 75% full. So these are proactive events. They don't require action now, they require action in the future. So, typically you're going to, with a reactive event, you need triage and restore the service immediately. With a proactive event, you're going to investigate and then plan some kind of change or understand better what you need to do to resolve that issue. It may not be an issue, it may have been a one-off thing, or it may be some pattern of capacity increasing, a capacity demand increasing over time with a WAN link, for example. So dropping packets may be some symptom that you're getting congestion on the interface, for example. So the reactive events are going to go to your operations and support teams. Your proactive events are going to go to your technology engineering teams and to be used for capacity planning. So very, very different things. And you may decide that you're not interested in proactive events and turn them off. No problem. You may decide that different teams, as I'm suggesting, would be receiving the different events. So let's look at how that might work. So depending on what it is, the different action is needed. So what sort of action is needed? So a device has many elements. So when you look at any sort of device, a router, a switch, a server, it has many elements. It has interfaces, disks, CPU, memory. We call those elements. And each of those things has a status. Is the disk full? Is the CPU busy? Is the memory full? These are the status of that element, and we break that down. And then the state of the device. So is the router or switch or server up or down? Is it working? Is it functioning? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? And some elements, like interfaces on a router, will also have a state as well. They'll be up or down. So so we have that status, and then we have that state. So some status events require action now. Disk is full is a status event. You're monitoring that disk, and it's now full, and you need to do something. Interface dropping packets, that is probably something you want to be doing something about sooner. You want to go do something to alleviate that. It might be errors on the interface. You might need to change out the SFP to fix some sort of error in the gigabit Ethernet, for example, the 10 gig Ethernet. So some statuses require action later, and generally speaking, state things require action now. You need to do something to understand what's going on or to restore that service. So we need to break these into, we need to understand in your environment how these match, but typically up down events are going to be reactive events, and then those proactive events, in our system we call them proactive events, are going to be proactive, and then you're going to have some of these events are going to be business impacting events, and you'll see an example of this in a second. So you need to, and our system will help you to differentiate quickly and easily between reactive, proactive, and business impacting events. And now you want to get the right information to the right teams. So now we understand if we have a reactive or a proactive event, and then we want to get those to the right teams. So we have lots and lots of different devices that we're dealing with, firewalls, routers, switches, etc. They're going to generate lots and lots of events about things. We're going to filter that down to the important things that people need to know about, and we're going to give actionable insight by delivering the reactive events to the operations team. That is the people responsible for operating the environment. And it might be the same people as the engineering team, but you're wearing a different hat. You're in operations mode versus engineering mode. You're going to have these proactive events that are going to go to the engineering team, and those proactive events are going to be things that the engineering team are looking at and considering how to improve the network. And then you're going to have those business impacting events, which I'm going to show you an example of how easy these are to have now. And you can get those to the customer success team. And I'm calling it the customer success team. You may get them straight to the business unit leader. You may get them to the business manager, depending who that is, but it's the person you need to inform that something is going on with their application that they need to know about. So it's really, really important that the business is aware when something is going on so that they can make plans to work around that. So a quick example of this would be if you had end of month accounting processes running and something was impacting the accounting system, you need the head of accounting to know that there's a problem so they can organize an alternate way to get the accounts finalized for the audit, right? So it's really, information is knowledge, and you need to get that and make sure that people can take action on it. So let's move on to how you'll get some business impact visibility with enterprise services. So what is enterprise services? Enterprise services provides a couple of really key bits of functionality that improve the way you can see your environment and take all of that complexity of all of those different devices and boil it into a couple of core bits of functionality that make it easier to understand your environment. So we have our enterprise service status panel, which you can use on your dashboards in different places. We have the enterprise service impact. When something goes wrong, we tell you what's wrong and we visually and show you in the system. And then we notify you. We can send you a notification. We generate an event. From that event, we can send emails. We can raise a ticket in a trouble ticketing system. We can do an API call, webhook to some other system, whatever you might want us to do, right? We can just send you an email. We can page your phone. We can do whatever you need to do. That's notification. And then you can have the context of what's going on by including some topology diagrams of the enterprise service to help the team understand, where it's going wrong and what else is going on with it. And we'll see that in just a second. So enterprise services, as we've talked about, is that taking those things that deliver that dedicated service or that shared service. So you're thinking about those shared services, you're thinking about those dedicated services, and you're grouping together the devices and the applications, the monitor services that deliver those. And we'll have a look at what this might look like in just a second, and then we'll go through a quick demo in a second. Looks like we'll have some time. And let's have a quick on-screen demo so we can show you the example. So we have our network that we sort of showed before. So we're going to break something. So we have that network nice and green on the left, and now we look at that network on the right. So that VIOS router here in the middle, the router at the top of this little distribution network has failed, and it means that all of those devices are now down. So in a typical system, you get lots of node down alerts. You'd be getting lots of interface alerts, BGP or OSPF routing protocol things would be going on. So now you're getting all of those alerts coming through. In our system, you'll have two critical alerts. You'll have an event saying that you've got a West distribution network is impacted. That event would go to the engineering team, and then you're going to have a customer relationship team are going to receive an event saying ABC company is having some problem. The enterprise service ABC company is down. There is some problem with that, right? So you now got all that complexity is boiled down to two events. One that's going to go to the engineering team so they can work on restoring the service and fixing the distribution network, and you're impacting this company, ABC company, and you're going to let them know, and you're going to send them an email, or you're going to get that to the customer relationship team so they can do something proactive and contact the customer. So now we've got that network engineering team. They're going to get that event. They're going to click on the event, and they're going to come to this visibility, and they're going to get this dashboard of what is going on. Immediately, they're going to see the overall status is down, that it's caused by the nodes being down, and that all of the nodes are down. They're going to get some other events in the contextual events in the visibility, in the middle of the view, and they're going to have that little topology diagram to help them understand what is going on. So they can see very quickly what the root cause of the problem is, that the router, the primary router at the top has gone down. Now they can go start working quickly to restore that service, finding out, probably fixing the cables, whatever needs to happen to bring that back online. The customer relationship team are getting a different view. They're getting the view that they need to understand the context of the problem. They've clicked on that, saying that they've got that email, or they've been on the dashboard, they've clicked on the event, they've gone into here, they're now seeing that the node for the customer is down, and in context in the network diagram that they've got there, the west network is also down. They know immediately that the problem with the customer being down is that west network. And we've got that little feature in our products called custom groups, which is how we can deliver, these lovely summarized bits of information. Many different types of devices contribute to the status, and you get that visibility very quickly. So what we'll do, we'll jump over to a quick demonstration of business impact visibility. I'll just be looking over here at the screen. So I've just started off by going into, I'll just go back a page to our. So when you come into applications, you hit on this landing page, all the applications that you've installed, these are modular. You can install the applications that you require. You don't have to install them all. You just choose the ones that you need. So we'll dive into OP charts, and we're looking at that network, that map that we've done. This is a default dashboard that I've set to be my default dashboard. We can go and have a look at just all the nodes in the environment. And we're looking at these different nodes. We can see here the status on our left. So we've got this summary of the entire environment, no matter how big it is going to be summarized into a little traffic light telling you that there's 42 nodes in total, and that there's 20 degraded, 20 reachable, and 2 unreachable. We have this concept of reachable, unreachable, and degraded, and that is your traffic light. So unreachable means I cannot talk to the device, it is unreachable. Reachable means I can talk to the device and it is healthy. I've detected no proactive issues, no alerts are current with that device. Degraded means that the device is reachable and I can talk to it, but there's some kind of degradation. It's got a disk full, it's dropping packets, some kind of proactive thing is going on, something that I need to look into maybe, but it's up and working, but there's some kind of degradation. So we separate that out, and it helps to pinpoint problems very, very rapidly. And then you have the context of the network over here on the right, and you can see all the devices. You can filter the devices quickly and easily. So if I just want to see devices for a given location, I can type in the name and just see the things in Sydney, whether they're in North Sydney or the North Sydney data center. I can change that to a panel view. And so now I can see something nice to get me some metrics, and I can understand, what's going on. And I might just want to see them in a map. Some people like geographical maps, some people like topology maps, and we give you both. So these are a lot of our maps are automatically generated or very easy to do. So we'll just do a quick network map, and now we can add the topology there very easily by adding subnets, and everything starts connecting. We can change the different types of things, and we can add our neighbors, and we just keep sort of clicking on the devices and quickly getting some nice topology going, and we might change over to breadth first. So, very, very quick and easy to make a topology. And there's our subnets, and now we've got visibility, into our subnets. We can move all of these around, and now you can actually save that, pardon me, you can save that diagram however you want to save it. So you can decide to save it as a map that you can then use in other things. And again, very quick and easy to generate your own maps. On anything that's appeared here, you can just delete the things you don't want. You can add other objects. You can add a custom group. So you can add think of it like a query. So you're querying all of the devices that you're managing, and you're adding all things for ABC customer in the location of something. Now, of course, sometimes queries might not result in any results. So you'd have to know, typically something like the ABC customer, or you might be wanting things that are for a location, Sydney data center, and you want things that are in the core of Sydney data center, right? So then you could just put core Sydney DC and add the icon. And when we save that map, that status will be calculated and displayed dynamically every time you see the map. So it's quick and easy to save the map. We'll give it a name. And save. And now we see we have that custom group telling us visibility and how many nodes and what's going on, and it's currently degraded. And now we get all the status, and we can do what we like with that map. I can then edit the map and change the map. I'll move on from mapping. So now we want to go and have a look at our monitored services. So monitored services are where we take a service and we take a device, whatever that might be. We call them nodes or devices. And I want to now verify, for example, that the SSL is working fine and that it's not expiring. And I want to check that there's a cron daemon. I'm checking, is a daemons running? I'm doing an active. So when we do check SSL expiry, we actually get the certificate, we verify the certificate, we check if it's expired, and then we tell you if it's not. So intentionally here, a server called Flow Demo is down. There's a problem. It's because we haven't set up the web server on it, so it's here for demo purposes. So there's a problem with that one. So it's showing that monitored service is down. So we have a visibility there with all those monitored services. You get the summary at the top, and you can sort of play around with the descriptions and so forth. We record the response time, and this is a really important capability, even for network engineers who are monitoring networks. It's really important that you look at things above the network layer so that you can understand what's going on and is the network delivering the packets it's supposed to be delivering. Right, it's a very important thing. So you might set up as a network engineer a couple of just basic monitored services so that you verify that internet connectivity is working and so forth. And the system keeps all of that. And then when you pick one of these things, and let's go and have a look at this is an example. We can see that this is verifying that the application is running over time. There was a little dip in something happened. At that point in time, there was an inability for the system to collect data, like it failed. So it was down for a brief period, but then it was up again immediately afterwards. So this is monitored services is happening all the time, and we verify that the system is up and working, and that in this case that the database is running. So we've got those nodes. We're managing the nodes. We've got all of that interface data for the routers and switches, and now we can build an enterprise service. So we'll just build an enterprise service. We're going to give it a name. And we're going to give it an anchor node. So what's the most important node that we're going to want to see and associate things with this thing? So we'll give it this this router that we have in our lab, and we're going to make it active. And we'll just pick a map. I'll just pick a map. Or we'll use that one that we created before. It's not quite the right structure, but we'll add that one as an example. So BIV demo. So now we've got a BIV demo. We've added no nodes to that yet. Our map's shown over here on the right. And so let's go and add some nodes. Very quick and easy to add nodes. I'm going to add those core devices. So I'm going to search for OMK. I'm just going to add those devices to my BIV. And now immediately I've got the status of those things. I've got some these links, which is just some great little features that we have in our product. But there's telling me immediately that there's degraded and unreachable. Reachable and degraded. So it's overall it's working, but there's some sort of degradation. Now I might want to add some interfaces. So I'm going to go and edit the interfaces, and I'll go and add something from one of the switches. I think it's ASE. So I'll pick some of these. No, they're down. So we'll pick some of these active interfaces. That'll do. So I could go and grab any number of interfaces there, and these are the critical interfaces for this service. So these are the interfaces that would be my uplinks or whatever they might be. Sometimes you may not have interfaces in an enterprise service. That's okay. Sometimes you won't have monitored services in an enterprise service. So you don't have to. You can leave some of these things out, but we'll just grab a couple of monitored services. We'll grab one that's down as well. So now that we've run all of those, you know, within not very long, we'll see that there's nodes and that we've got things that are degraded. The node state is down, and because we added some interfaces and we added some services, and we'll just delete that one service. Just make sure it's all up. Go back to BIV demo. And in a few seconds, we're going to see that the status of those things added, because we've just created this enterprise service. The system's now calculating the health of the enterprise service. We can go in and tweak that map. The funny thing about maps is you're sort of doing technical, I'd call technical art. So you've still got to cover things like the aspect ratio of what you want the network diagram to do and where you want it to fit and how you want it to sort of be structured. We'll just quickly do that, make it a bit squarer. And we'll go back to enterprise services. So now you see that we're getting that service status and we've got that node status, and that's come in, and we're seeing the map is now fitting better on our little panel on the right. And we've started to see that there's the status summaries of those particular things have been identified, and that we're sort of understanding that this is degraded. This overall status is degraded. There's 3 of 5 nodes degraded. I'm not guessing what's going on, and it's telling me down here that this proactive CPU is causing that degradation. So at a glance, I've built an enterprise service, and now I've immediately got the visibility, and I've actually had an event generated. So let's jump over to the event management system. I'm wanting to finish this demo up quickly so that there's time for questions. And we can see here that we have an event generated for the BIV demo that we just worked on. And I've got so this event was generated and has now gone into our system, so that the enterprise service is up and working. Its state is up, it's working, but it's degraded, right? So the business is okay, but there's something going on. It's not perfect. There's some sort of load, something is happening. So you understand that it's a yellow light, not a red light. And you know, again, you're in the context. You've seen the event. You can now take actions. So you could do any number of different things here with this particular node. You could go and click and create a ticket. We've just got a little integration here with Jira, and then we can now click on the ticket and takes us into Jira. And I've now got the trouble ticket created in Jira, so that we can do something else. So this could be ServiceNow, ConnectWise, any number of incident management tools that we have integrations with. So that concludes my my demo. I'll just come back to those slides. So what we've gone through today is we've gone through the importance and benefits of business impact visibility. We've highlighted how you can get started with business impact visibility, and we've introduced those core concepts around shared versus dedicated infrastructure, and to differentiate reactive, proactive, and business impacting events so you can respond to them appropriately. And we've also shown how you can implement business impact visibility with OP Charts enterprise services. So I'd like to hand back over to Eric.
Absolutely, Keith. I think we're up to our second and final poll question. So for, again, those of you in our audience, we would now, after hearing from Keith, would love to hear from you. Which features or capabilities do you feel are missing from your current network management software that would help you improve business impact visibility and notification? Visibility of all devices on the network, integrated fault and performance management, health and availability metrics with configurable alert thresholds, customizable event levels and sharing and alerting, excuse me, or enterprise services, meaning network monitoring with real-time alerts for admins and management. So they're able to quickly identify root causes of any business impact through a single click. So again, we'd love to hear from you. Honestly, Keith, it sounds like all of these would be beneficial, and folks should want them in their network management tools.
Yeah, these are all important capabilities that you want to have. And some people don't want every single one of them. Some people have got to, they usually want all of them, but it might also be a journey. So you focus on the more impacting ones for your business first, and then over time you work to get all capabilities in all of these. But yeah, they're all important.
So what's the best way for folks to understand which of these capabilities is going to be most important for them?
Where we just had that first poll was very interesting, right? So people didn't have anything in place today. So right now they are blind. They are driving down the highway. They don't have a speedo working. They don't have a fuel gauge. They don't know how far they've gone. They've got no dashboard. They've got no visibility. They're just driving down the highway at some sort of speed. They don't know how fast they're going. So they just need visibility. So the first thing to do is just get visibility. Just install our software, the free software, and just get visibility. Just see what's going on. And once you see what's going on, you see how fast you're going, you see how far you've been, and you see how much fuel you've got left, you can see how far you can go, right? That is the most important thing, is just get basic visibility first. Then once you've got basic visibility, then you can start layering on the additional capabilities very, very easily and very, very quickly. But you want to start really tuning those, just tuning a little bit, those events, ignoring the ones that aren't important to you, focusing on the ones that are important and getting those to the right people, and then I could go on, Eric, so you might have the poll results by now.
Absolutely. Let's take a look. So I don't know if anything there surprises you, Keith.
That's really good. So that's actually not too surprising at all. I think that you definitely want to get integrated fault and performance management. Something NMIS has been doing for a really long time. You can get both with one tool. But yeah, that's not really surprising.
Great. I will close this, and let's try to wrap up here shortly. So Keith, are you ready for a few questions?
I'm absolutely ready for questions.
And again, for those of our in our audience, if you are interested in today's slide deck, the email address, marketing@firstwave.com, feel free to reach out to them at your convenience. Keith, there's, you've been talking about BIV. There's another term that a lot of folks might be more familiar with, root cause analysis. Can you explain a little bit about why BIV might work better than root cause analysis?
Yeah. So root cause analysis, so it's a bit of a nuanced thing. So business impact visibility and the feature we have, we call enterprise services, is a way to achieve root cause analysis, right? But root cause analysis as a term is very overloaded in the network monitoring game and in the IT industry. So there's a lot of tools out there that will promise that they do root cause analysis, and some of them deliver this. The issue with traditional root cause analysis is it's what we would call tightly coupled. So it must have communication with every single device that it's responsible for, and that all of the things in the chain of that network diagram I was showing before, it's got to talk to all of those switches and routers, all of the servers, everything it's got to see to be able to deliver the root cause analysis. Because of the complexity in those algorithms, they're amazing systems. The problem is, in most environments, it's not possible to get access to talk to every single thing in the environment. You have outsourced a piece of your network, you're using an MPLS WAN that's run by another provider, you don't have contiguous network connectivity from that one end of your enterprise to the other. And it's just kind of normal for a long time in enterprise networks, or small, medium, and large networks all over the world. So, root cause analysis as a concept and being able to understand the root cause of the issue that you had, so quickly analyze that problem and get to the root cause so you can fix it, is what is delivered by business impact visibility and enterprise services. The tools that would call themselves root cause analysis tools, many of them work brilliantly if you have 100% reachability, and you can communicate with every single thing in your environment. And they're great, but frequently you don't actually have that ability to talk to everything, and they can't get you to the actual root cause of what the problem was.
Thanks, Keith. I did want to ask this one question. You just a few moments ago mentioned, getting started is as easy as starting to use FirstWave's free tool. Where can people go to find FirstWave's suite of tools, and specifically the free version?
Yeah, you can go to firstwave.com, and you'll find on the link there, you'll see that there's the products page, and then you can go to the monitoring section, and you can download NMIS and install NMIS. We have an OVA, like a virtual machine. You can download and install that virtual machine. And if you, or you can just run up a Linux server and install our software directly onto a Linux server. So you can grab the software from there. The commercial products are free to use for 20 nodes. So I run them in my home lab for fun. Keep an eye on my home network. You can run them, in a small environment to test them out in your own network to see how they work for you. And they're available, but all available for free for download. And then the open source product NMIS, which has been around for a long time, is of course free forever.
Excellent. Thanks, Keith. Do you have any real-world examples that you can talk about from folks that have been able to leverage business impact visibility successfully?
Yeah. I mean, business impact visibility is a broad thing. So there's a university that we were working with that contacted us to let us know that just our dashboards let them immediately identify that the cause of an outage. They didn't even need to have business impact visibility, just our dashboards and that nodes page that I showed earlier. And it just showed they were able to look at that page, see that there was nodes down, click on that, find out which nodes they were, and go and sort that out very, very rapidly. So that we've been going through business impact visibility and enterprise services, but when you've just put the nodes in and you've got that visibility, you're going to get some of that straight away. So then specifically customers using enterprise services features, we have a lot of our customers using enterprise services features. There are quite a few government agencies here in Australia using them, and they are building up their environment. They're in production today with it, and they're using it so that they can see the different parts of their environment. So one of them is Services Australia, and they're an internal service provider. They're a government service provider to the government departments. So they've sort of put the applications that they're responsible for, which are critical to all Australians to be running. I mean, Services Australia is a very large organisation, so they put all of the applications that we Aussies need to do our day-to-day things, in life, and they monitor all those applications and make sure that they're up and working, and then they use that to get the alerts to the right people if there's any problems.
Keith, what about scalability, either up or down? How easy is it for smaller or larger organizations to start using your tools, and things like the events tool? Are they suitable for both smaller and larger businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of our key tenets in the technology side is to make sure that we scale up and down. So we can start on a very small server with 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM, and you can monitor a bunch of things with that smaller network. And then we scale right up to very large environments on a single server, thousands and thousands of nodes on a single server, or you can have multiple servers. So you can scale out by using our high availability features, which gives you multi-server capabilities. So you can scale a server vertically to as big as you want it. Then you add more servers and you scale horizontally to add more capacity in that way. So we let you do both. Of course, to get to a very large environment, you're going to have to do both. You're going to have quite large servers, and you're going to have many large servers. And I'm talking tens of thousands of devices.
Wonderful. Thanks, Keith. That does take us to the end of the time that we have this morning or this evening, depending on where we're all from. I want to thank everybody in our audience for taking time out of your busy days. Hopefully, Keith's insight has been helpful. Certainly reach out to the FirstWave team if you'd like, you have more questions or you'd like more detail. Keith, thank you so much for starting your day off with us. We very much appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see everybody again here very soon. With that, again, have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, and be well.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.